The kind of neighborhood that still smelled faintly of cut grass and detergent on summer evenings, the kind where porch lights came on in sequence, like a slow wave of domestic normalcy. I had taken the babysitting job because it was close to campus, only a 15-minute bus ride, and Mrs. Dalton seemed nice enough. Her daughter, Lila, was small for her age, with big gray eyes that never seemed to look directly at you. When I first met her, she was curled up in a blanket on the couch, staring at the muted TV like she was watching something invisible. "She's shy," Mrs. Dalton had said, smiling apologetically as she grabbed her keys. "Takes a while to warm up. She's been having nightmares lately. Probably just the move." I told her not to worry, that I'd watched kids before, that I knew how to handle shy ones. When the door clicked shut and her car pulled away, the silence in the house was immediate, not oppressive, but still, like the walls were holding their breath. The Dalton's house wasn't old, but it had that weird hush that some homes do. No creaks, no hum of pipes, just the occasional muffled tick of the kitchen clock. Lila sat on the edge of the couch, her knees drawn to her chest. "Do you want to play a game?" I asked, crouching beside her. She shook her head. "Maybe a story?" Another shake. It took nearly an hour for her to speak to me. It happened when I offered her a bowl of ice cream. She took it shyly, then mumbled a small thank you. Her voice was soft and strange, not like a whisper, but like a note being plucked too quietly on a string. I smiled. "You like ice cream?" She nodded. "What's your favorite flavor?" "Chocolate," she said after a pause, then hesitating. "But I can't eat it after dark." I laughed lightly. "Why not?" Her spoon stopped halfway to her mouth. She didn't answer. By 9, I'd gotten her to brush her teeth and change into pajamas, pink ones with little stars on the cuffs. I read to her, "Good night, Moon," and she seemed calmer, though her eyes darted toward the window often. As I tucked her in, she said something so softly that I almost didn't catch it. "They come at night." I froze. "Who comes, sweetheart?" "The kids." Something cold rolled down my spine, but I kept my voice even. "The kids from school?" She shook her head. Her eyes flicked to the window again, then back to me. "They come to the door. They knock." I tried to laugh it off. "Probably just a dream, honey." But she was staring at me now, really staring, and her little fingers gripped my wrist. "They want me to let them in," she whispered. "But Mommy says I mustn't." A faint breeze drifted through the room. I turned toward the window. It was shut tight. "Okay," I said softly, forcing a smile. "Well, I'll be here tonight. No one's coming in, all right?" She didn't answer. She just curled under the blanket, eyes wide and unblinking. By 10, I'd turned on the TV in the living room and scrolled through channels. The sound helped. It made the house feel less hollow. I don't know when I first noticed it, the faint clicking sound, like something tapping glass. It came from the hallway. I muted the TV. Tap, tap, tap. I stood up slowly, listening. The sound came again, rhythmic, gentle, like knuckles against wood. I swallowed and moved toward the front door. The porch light was off, so the window beside the door showed only my reflection and the dim shapes of bushes swaying in the wind. The knocking stopped. I waited another minute before exhaling, forcing a laugh at myself. It was probably a branch, or then the sound came again. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. Tap, tap, tap. This time the air itself felt wrong, heavy. I crept forward and looked through the peephole. There was nothing. Just the empty porch bathed in orange streetlight. When I went back to the couch, my hands were trembling slightly. I tried to focus on my phone scrolling, checking messages, but the screen suddenly dimmed. Battery 2%. I could have sworn it was at 80 when I got here. Then the lamp beside me flickered once, twice, and went out. The house fell into silence again. The kind that hums against your skin. I stood there for a long minute, breathing quietly. Finally, I decided I was being ridiculous, and I went to check on Lila. She was awake, sitting upright in bed. The covers were pulled to her chin. "Did you hear it?" she whispered. My throat felt tight. "Hear what?" "The knocking," she said. "They always come back." I sat on the edge of her bed and brushed her hair back. "Lila, there's no one outside. I checked." Her eyes darted toward the window again. "You didn't see them?" I hesitated. "No, honey, no one was there." She turned her gaze back to me, and something about the calm in her voice made my skin crawl. They don't like being seen. That night, I slept on the couch, or tried to. My phone had died completely, and the charger I brought didn't seem to work. I gave up and just lay there, listening to the clock tick. At some point, I must have drifted off. When I opened my eyes, it was 3:04 a.m. There was a sound again, a soft, dragging scrape against the front door. My stomach turned. The scrape stopped. Then came the 3 knocks. Tap, tap, tap. Only this time, a child's voice followed. "Please," it said, muffled, trembling. "We're hungry. We need to come in." I froze, every nerve in my body straining toward that sound. Then another voice, higher, thinner. "Please, it's so cold." I didn't move, didn't breathe. Because through the small glass window near the handle, I could just make out 2 shapes, standing very still on the porch, small, motionless, and facing the door. They were dressed in black. At first, I told myself I was dreaming. Because what kind of nightmare has children standing at your front door at 3 a.m? 2 little girls. They couldn't have been older than 6 or 7, standing side by side in that narrow glow of the porch light. Pale faces tilted down, hair parted in the middle, like something out of an old portrait. Their black dresses brushed their ankles, stiff and formal, with high collars that buttoned right up to their throats. I remember thinking no one dresses their kids like that anymore. Then one of them looked up. Her eyes were bottomless black from lid to lid, glossy like oil. There was no reflection, no color, no white, just darkness that moved as if it had a pulse of its own. And yet, I couldn't move away. There was something magnetic about it, terrifying, yes, but it also pulled at me, like the air between us was bending inward. My hand twitched toward the doorknob before I even realized I was doing it. "Please," the smaller one whispered. Her lips barely moved. "We're cold. We're hungry. Please let us in." Every instinct screamed no. Every nerve in my body shouted run. But my chest tightened instead, my breath slowing, heart thudding in time with that low whisper. "Please," she said again. "It's so cold." The words slid under my skin like silk thin, sharp, hypnotic. I could almost feel the cold she was talking about, seeping into my bones, making me pity them, making me want to open the door and wrap them in blankets, warm them, feed them, and something broke that trance. My phone buzzed violently in my hand. I hadn't even realized I'd grabbed it. The vibration startled me enough to blink, and when I did, I stumbled backward, slamming into the side table. When I looked again, both girls had moved. They were closer now. Just a step. But it was wrong. I hadn't seen them move. They were still, but the space between us had shrunk. "Please," they whispered again. Perfectly in unison this time. Their voices sounded like wind slipping through a crack in a window. "We need to come inside." My hand brushed the knob again. It was like the metal itself was warm, waiting for me. For a split second, my mind felt split, half of me screaming to stop, half of me desperate to open the door. I bit my lip hard enough to taste blood. The sharp pain snapped me out of it. I jerked my hand back and shouted through the wood, "Go away! I'm calling the police!" Silence. They didn't move. They just stood there, watching. I swear, I could feel those black eyes through the door, pressing against me like weight. The taller one tilted her head to the side, a slow, jerky motion, like a marionette's. "Please," she murmured. "We can't come in unless you invite us." Something about that line made my stomach turn to ice. Unless I invite them. I backed away, one shaky step at a time. The air felt thicker the farther I moved from the door, as if I were wading through invisible water. My head buzzed, my vision blurred slightly, like I'd been holding my breath for too long. And then, as suddenly as they came, the heaviness vanished. The porch was empty when I looked again. Only the swing moved slightly, creaking with the breeze that wasn't there. I didn't sleep that night. Every time my eyes closed, I saw those black eyes again, and worse, I felt that strange urge rise in me like a tide, the pull to let them in. Not because I wanted to, but because some tiny, buried part of me already had. When morning came, sunlight never looked so fragile. Lila padded down the hallway in her pajamas, rubbing her eyes. "They came again, didn't they?" she asked softly. I froze with the coffee cup halfway to my lips. "You heard them?" She nodded, her small face oddly calm. "They always come back. They like when new people stay here." "Lila," my voice cracked. "What do they want?" She didn't look up from the cereal bowl she was stirring. "They want to be let in. And once you open the door..." She stopped stirring, her spoon clinking softly against the bowl. "They don't leave." I tried to laugh it off, but it came out hollow. "You're just telling ghost stories, huh?" She looked up then directly into my eyes. And for the briefest moment, I swore I saw a flicker of reflection in her pupils. Two tiny silhouettes standing in the glow of a porch light. That night, I told myself I wouldn't look. I'd ignore any sound, any knock. But right at 3 a.m., the air in the room shifted again, thick, heavy, electric. Then 3 knocks, perfectly spaced. Tap, tap, tap. The sound of children's voices followed, muffled but clear. "Please, let us in. It's cold." I pressed my hands against my ears and whispered to myself, "Don't look. Don't look." But my eyes still found the window as if drawn by gravity. Outside in the dim light from the street lamp, 2 small figures stood by the front steps, their faces turned upward toward the glass, still, patient, waiting. I stared until my throat tightened. The longer I looked, the more something inside me wanted to help them. It felt like guilt, like empathy twisted into a hook. "Please," one whispered again, though I couldn't have heard her from that far. The words seemed to bloom directly in my mind. I gripped the edge of the couch until my nails dug into the fabric. "Don't open the door," I whispered aloud. "Don't you dare." And for hours, or maybe minutes, time had no meaning anymore. I fought the urge to move, to open, to surrender. Only when the first pale light of dawn brushed the curtains did the heaviness lift again. Outside, the porch was empty. But the welcome mat was damp, and there were 2 perfect, small, bare footprints pressed into it.